Hi, my name is Katie Morris, and I'm a K-12 art teacher in Holton, Kansas. I'm also the webmaster for Kansas Art Education Association. Recently, our social media committee has started hosting art teacher socials, where we get a chance to talk about different things that are going on and also play some games. The games are a good way to get to know each other, and they've also given us the opportunity to learn new things to try with our students. Now, I was able to try using some of these games the last 2 weeks of meeting with my students on Zoom, and it was just a really good experience. In my experience, elementary kids really like to be on video and they like to talk on Zoom and hang out and be really involved, but middle and high school students are a little more hesitant, and I was just kind of getting tired of talking to a screen full of names. They weren't even turning their video on, and I was just talking to myself, it seemed. So once I was able to play games, there was a lot more interaction and the students were much more engaged. So we were able to get back some of that interaction that I was really missing from the classroom, and I think the students were missing that too. So today I'm going to tell you about several different games that you can try out with your students, whether we are meeting online, teaching from home next fall, or even just in the classroom. I think some of these could be changed up. So hopefully you can get some good ideas no matter what next school year is going to look like. Kahoot is an online game system allowing teachers to create games students can use for review. First, you'll want to choose Classic, since students will be working from home. You'll create your questions that have 2 to 4 multiple choice answers, and then it will give you a unique game pin that students will use to get onto your game. I start by sharing my screen in Zoom so the students can see the website to go to, and then they have the pin right there. When your students get logged in, they'll be asked to select a player name, and it's probably a good idea to have them use their actual first name so nobody gets tempted to pick something that's not appropriate for school. You can see when all of your players are logged on, and when they are, you're ready to start going through the questions. As you start with the first question, it will put up the multiple choice answers that show a color and a shape along with the answer. At the end, it will show the student who got it correct and then the first, second, and third place. From the student's perspective on their device, they don't see the question, they just see the colors and shapes. So it's important that they still watch the screen to see what the questions are. You get more points for answering more quickly. So the students can get pretty competitive playing this game. The Kahoot we're showing in this example is an old Art History Thursday review that I played with my students before we had a quiz. There are a lot of different ways you can do this game. You can do a general knowledge one, or you can keep it really specific to what you've been studying. Kahoot has also added the option to make these games available for students to play as a review on their own. When you set up the game, it gives you that choice, and I think that has a lot of potential as well. Whenever I play Kahoot with my students in the classroom, they really get into it. You can have them play on a computer or from their cell phone, and honestly, I think it's easier to let them play from a cell phone if that's okay with your school. Of course, playing from home, it's just whatever they have available. But it does work pretty well. I've used this with middle and high school students. I haven't used it with elementary, mainly because I don't see my elementary students as much, but I think it could work as long as you had enough computers available, and you could maybe even let the students play as a team. When you get to the very end of the game, they make a big deal out of showing the winners. So the students always cheer and they get really excited, and it's kind of fun to see your name up there if you're the winner. The next game is Would You Rather, and this is a concept that your students are probably familiar with. This PowerPoint presentation was put together by Megan Wendleton, and she's done a nice job of having little visuals here to illustrate her questions. So, would you rather have a pet snake or have a pet rat? Would you rather eat a whole onion or eat grass? Would you rather climb a mountain or swim across a lake? Would you rather draw a person or draw an animal? Would you rather go bungee jumping or go skydiving? Would you rather read a book or watch TV? Would you rather have a bee loose in your house or have a mouse loose in your house? So these are kind of general questions which are fun, but if you wanted to make it more specific to art, you could keep the would you rather draw a person or draw an animal, and you could add other options like would you rather work 2D or work 3D? Would you rather use clay or sculpt with wire? Would you rather draw with charcoal or draw with graphite? Would you rather work in black and white or work in color? Would you rather study art history or learn about contemporary artists? There's a lot of different ways to do it, and there's really no score. It's just fun to do, and you can have students share their answers and discuss. They could even debate which one's better if you wanted to. It just depends on how much time you want to take up. This could be, a longer activity if you needed it to be, or if you just wanted to have a fun, quick game to get people kind of energized before you go into your lesson for that week, this would be a great option as well. Okay, the next game is Art Teachers Categories. This was put together by one of our social media committee members, Nikki Bowers, and she made it with questions for art teachers, but it's a really good starting point for playing with students. So I will have this PDF in the folder that you can look at if that's helpful to you, but it has the directions on how to play and how the scoring works, and she has different ideas for how to pick the person that gets to choose the letter for that round. Now, we played several rounds when we did this in our social, but when I did it with my students, I picked some of these ideas and we just did one round before we went back to explaining the activity for the week. So you can look through these to get kind of some starting points, or you can just completely come up with your own. What I did is I shared my screen with my students during Zoom, and I also listed how the scoring worked and what the categories were that I was going to use. That way it was easy for the students to keep track while they were working. So your students will need something to write on so they can keep track of their answers while they play. Some of the ideas I used for who got to pick the letter were who has the most people living in your house, who has the most pets, different things like that. So the categories that I chose, because I thought they were just pretty simple and would work well: place you want to visit, an excuse for being late to class, because there's some really creative answers there, name of an art supply, something at home that's a distraction, name of any color, TV show or a movie to binge watch, and name a snack. I also have a spot at the bottom. Yeah, Mommy's talking. I also have a spot at the bottom where I typed in the letter that they were using so they could keep track of that. And then I would just make my browser smaller, and I used a visual timer on YouTube and set it for 5 minutes. 5 minutes was plenty of time for my students. All right, the next game is one that I put together where you can use emojis as clues for people to guess artists. Now, obviously, you would need to pick artists that your students might be familiar with. So maybe artists you've covered before, or just some more well-known artists. Some were easier to come up with clues for than others. And there were some artists that honestly I wanted to include, but I couldn't find the right emojis to work as clues. So on the first slide, I have the emojis. And then on the second slide that I would show after people have had 10 seconds or however long you want to give them to guess, I put images of the artist and their work and a couple of sentences maybe to explain that, explain the clues, what they meant. So I'm going to go through these pretty fast, but if you are fast enough, you can feel free to type your guess in the comments. And also, if you have an idea for another artist that I didn't include and you know what emojis would work, you can type that in too, and I can always go back and add that to the slides presentation. But I just did the first ones that I was able to come up with, and I had a lot of fun putting this together. So as far as using it with students, you could do it a couple ways. You could either have them write down their answer for every slide, and then look at that at the end, or you could just do the first person to answer. You could have them either unmute and shout out their answer if you have a smaller group, or if you have a larger group, or just wanted to keep it a little bit calmer, you could have them type their answers in the chat, and the first one with the right answer could get the points or just bragging rights. It doesn't always have to be a final score, but the challenge is fun. So yeah, I'm going to go through the rest of these real quick and show them to you. And like I said, if you have any suggestions for artists that you think I should add and you know what emojis would work, just please add that, and I will go back and add that to the slides presentation later that will be in that folder for everybody to access. And you can always make a copy and make your own changes to use it with your students. Change the order, delete things, add things. If you make a copy, you can do whatever you want to with it. All right, got a few more here. Iga, Ebo, Jimdine, Escher, Banksy, and Usama. And then I had to throw in Bob Ross because my students are huge Bob Ross fans. So we're ending with some happy little trees and mountains. All right, so please share your ideas if you have something you want me to go back and add, and I will make it happen. If you've ever wanted to have the job where you get to name paint colors, then this is a game that you would really enjoy. Nikki Bowers put this together to play with her students, and you would start with a piece of paper to keep your own score. In this PowerPoint, she has some with multiple choice. So Showstopper is the name of the paint, and do you think this color name is brown, blue, green, or red? So just the basic hue. And then on the next slide, it shows the answer. So you can go through and have students guess, write down what color they think this is based on the name, and then keep track of their own score. There are some bonus questions put in here that are worth 5 points. And those questions ask you to find an object that you think is the color. So cheerful, go find an object that you think is that color. And then when the minute's up, she shows the answer. And cheerful is a beautiful golden yellow. So it goes through, and then at the end, Nikki asked her students to private message her their scores so she could figure out who placed first, second, and third. The next game is an add or subtract challenge, and these ideas came from Alyssa Passmore. There are 20-some prompts on here, and if the students have the thing, they either add or subtract points, keeping their own score. So it's pretty simple addition, and you can feel free to change these questions to fit your students. I know I changed some. My students are obsessed with TikTok, so I used that on there. I put things that I knew would apply to my student population. So there's things about giving yourself points or losing points if you're wearing pajamas or based on your shoe size, points for pets, making your bed, doing the dishes, doing chores, reaching out to be in touch with friends. If you turned in all of your assignments last week or turn in your assignments today, add 15 points to your score. Points for going outside or being stuck inside. There's just all sorts of things. And at the end, if you want, you could choose to reward the high and low scores. If you have prizes or something, my friend Tranda Stranad from Repco Art Room, she was able to get a bunch of prizes donated in her small community, and she had really good engagement with her students doing different art challenges. So she had maybe like a $5 Dairy Queen gift card or some art supplies that students could win. So that would certainly be an option if you have resources to where you could get donations. You'd always add a few points extra credit, or it can just be for bragging rights. But this is another fun game. The purpose of a scavenger hunt on Zoom is just to create positive interactions between your students to keep them connected while distance learning. So before you jump in, you're going to want to go over the rules. I even posted the rules right there on the screen for them to see. The first one is that you can't leave the frame until I say go. The second rule is that you can't take your device with you, so you can't run with your phone or your computer. That has to stay where you are. 3, you can't use something you're already wearing for your object. And then 4, the first person back in the frame holding up the object wins. The list of prompts that I have here are courtesy of Alyssa Passmore, and you can change them up to work for you. These are just kind of generic prompts. Find something that's a certain color, and you can choose whatever color you want. Find something that you can eat with. You can do textures or different elements of art, like something that is soft, rough, or smooth. You could find something that's a line, something that's a shape, something with a pattern, something to make art with. For fun, we did things that went along with the pandemic, something that people were hoarding. You could do toilet paper, cleaning supplies, soap, or hand sanitizer. Something that starts with a certain letter. There's just all sorts of things to do. If you have students that you know will be able to go outside, you can even say a leaf or a blade of grass. I like to put that one at the very end. And there's just a lot of really fun options. So this could be just for fun, or you could make it fit with something you'd been discussing. There's a lot of options. All right. Let's do something rectangular. Go.
Fuck.
The screen. This
I'm gonna give those
frame
points
count.
to Noah. All right. William found something. Okay, let's see what my next prompt is. I think I used almost everything on here. I want to do one more. Let's see, do we have any ties? Yes, we do have a tie. We have 2 ties. Rebecca and Taylor both have 3 points. William and Noah both have 1 point. So tiebreaker is down to Rebecca and Taylor. I'm going to say a leaf or a blade of grass. Go.
Got it.
You just see Taylor shoot out the door. Taylor wins. Are you okay, Taylor?
Do you want me to put this back?
Yeah, right there, but I got one. Oh. Oh, jeez.
That was the best one. I'm so glad this is recorded. All right, so 5 extra credit points go to Taylor. He beat you and he wiped out. It was awesome. Only awesome because he's okay. Okay, so that was a lot of games, and hopefully everybody will be able to find something that you can use. All of these resources should be in the folder that you can access, so just feel free to make a copy of it and change it up to fit your needs. And if you have other ideas, go ahead and type them in the comments. That way we can keep learning from each other. So I hope everybody has had a good experience and you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thanks for watching.